Okay,
was like, God, we can do that.
there we are.
We are.
You are.
All right, so
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
thank you very much, Cam.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, here we are. We're live on Facebook.
Kathy, if you can hear us, can you turn your
Miss
camera
Fox.
and your mic off?
Yes, could you turn the mic off?
There.
There we are. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the July 10th, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset School Committee. Would all members who are present please indicate so in roll call. Mr. Carr,
Present.
Mr. Dial,
Present.
Mrs. Hannah is not present with us tonight. Mrs. Lesky.
Present.
All right, well, that gives us a quorum with 4 of the 5 members present. At this point, I'd ask everyone who is willing and able to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so welcome again, everyone. I just had we have a fairly short agenda tonight. I had a few opening remarks relative to procedure. I want to implement slightly different procedure than we've had in the past, and that is not a criticism on our prior process. I think the board's been very effective and efficient, but I have always been a little bit concerned about the amount of time we keep our administrators here at night and any sort of principals that visit, teachers, as well as the volunteer board members. So one thing we had done to combat the length of the meetings is to start our meetings at 6 o'clock, which really helped. What I want to try and do now, and I am likely one of the most long-winded members of this board, so this is going to be a challenge for me as well, and it's put in place to maybe put a leash on me as much as possible as well. But I want to implement some time restrictions. So what we're going to try, and we'll just do our best to work with this and see how it works. And if it's not working, we can change it, modify, or just delete it altogether. But I think it'll help us to have more effective streamlined meetings. And hopefully the goal is to, and while there will always be some meetings where we have just a lot of substance and a lot of important content, in which case, you know, some of these time restrictions will be expanded. But in general, my goal is to ensure that we have school committee meetings within a 90-minute to 2-hour period every single time. And so the restrictions are going to be placed on various parties or parts of the agenda. First and foremost, school committee members. Each school committee member for each topic will have 3 minutes to express their feelings, ask some questions. This should be enough time to do what we need to do, because if you think about it, and that might sound like a short amount of time, but when you think about it, you have to multiply that by 5 for every issue. And so 3 minutes for each member would equal, if everyone takes their allotted time, would be 15 minutes, a 15-minute window for each block. So I think that should be enough. Let's see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, we can always change it. As far as invited guests, we will inform them they have 10 minutes to make their presentation, whether that's about a field trip or whether it's the principals presenting on their school improvement plan. I think they've done a great job. Mr. Dial did a great job actually of ensuring that they focused on highlights, and that already streamlined it a lot. But I think that they will be, if they're able to prepare and think about that as they prepare, they should be able to keep it within 10 minutes. The superintendent's school updates, I've talked to Mrs. Shannon, and she has indicated that she feels generally like a typical update where nothing like really amazing is happening or really big events are happening. 5 minutes should be enough. But if we need to expand it, she and I will discuss it before each meeting. And, you know, if we need to increase that to 10 for the update, if there's something important coming up or some large event, we can do that. Budget, I've discussed this with Ms. Owen, and she says 10 minutes for a standard budget update will be plenty of time. But obviously there are times of the year where budget is much more involved, and we will have to expand that to say 15 or 20 minutes. Academic updates, same thing, 10 minutes. But there are times of the year when we're talking about MCAS results, things of that nature, maybe different curricula that we're implementing, and we'll have to expand that. But generally speaking, it would be 10 minutes for that as well. And for any spotlights on learning or student presentations, there will be no time limits. So we want to make sure that the students are not pressured in any way, that we're hearing everything that they want to share with us, and we're watching our wonderful classroom practitioners show us their art and what they're presenting to the students in the classroom. So that would be the time limit. So just keep them in mind. I will try and keep the time. I'll give everyone sort of a heads up if you're closing in on the last minute, just so people can be aware of what the time is. So you don't have to worry about that while you're speaking or asking questions. And I would remind our wonderful families and any other participants that we will adhere to the 3 comment maximum per household per meeting. I, at this point, am not going to implement any time restrictions on participants or on people that attend the meeting. I think that the 3 comment maximum will take care of that. We want to encourage participation. Certainly don't want to be chilling that, or have a chilling effect on that. So we'll see how that goes. Motions. I'll constantly recognize everyone in alphabetical order. If you want to be recognized outside of alphabetical order, just indicate to me verbally or physically, raising your hand, something like that, and I'll recognize you if the timing is appropriate. If there is a motion made, whether it is, at any point in time, if there's a second for it, it's going to move to immediate vote. So if someone makes, if Mr. Dial is speaking second and he makes a motion and someone seconds that motion, it's going to go to vote. So you got to think about, if Ms. Lesky hasn't had a chance to speak, or Ms. Hannah has had a chance to speak, they may not want to vote for that motion, or you might want to vote against that motion because you want to hear your other school committee members if they have any thoughts. But it is appropriate to see if there's a second on the motion. If there is, then it moves to vote. We don't need to wait until everyone has spoken. If people feel that it's appropriate to take a motion, make the motion. Everyone on this board has an equal voice. But I would ask everyone to be considerate that if everyone hasn't had a chance to speak, it may be appropriate to let everyone have a chance to speak before you make that motion. So those are just some of the things. We'll work through it. We'll talk through it, see how it works, as we always do. But that's my goal for how we're going to run the meetings, to see if that improves the timing. So that said, we'll move into public comment, which is always the first agenda item. I will see if there is any public comment here. Hold on one second. I'm also taking over the management of the technology from the superintendent, so I think that might aid the superintendent. So I don't see any. And as a reminder, if you do want to participate virtually, there's no one in the audience other than our wonderful secondary special education team chair, who is here for another agenda item. So the only participation will be coming virtually. I don't see any. If you do want to participate virtually, you have to use Zoom. You won't be able to do that on Facebook. And I think most people know that now. But I don't see any comments, so we'll move on to the next section, which is invited guests. We don't have any invited guests today. It's the first meeting of the summer, so it's a fairly light agenda. And from there, we'll just move right into the superintendent's report. And at this time, I turn the meeting over to our superintendent of schools, our brand spanking new superintendent of schools, Mrs. Sarah Shannon.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm really excited to be here. I've been working since July 1st. So I think with the holiday in there, this is my seventh day of work. But it's been great. I just really have appreciated how welcoming everybody has been. And I've had the opportunity to start meeting with a lot of different people to get to know folks and get to know how things work. I think every day I have a whole nother list of questions to figure out what the answers are. But I think it'll be that for the foreseeable future. But it's been a great start to my time here in Cohasset. I am going to be sending a letter out to the community and just sharing my excitement for being here, but also inviting people to participate in getting to know me. I've been working with the farmers market and with Nona's actually to find time where I can be at the farmer's market for people if they want to stop by and say hello in a casual setting, set a date for a back to school ice cream social at the end of August. And I'm going to be offering a couple of forums for community and staff to come meet with me in a more formal setting, but also inviting folks to just email me to set up a one-on-one meeting if anyone's interested in that. I know that coming end of August and staff coming back and then students and families coming back, there'll be a lot of opportunity to meet with people, but the summer is a nice quieter time if people want to meet one-on-one. We can do that. So I'm excited to get that letter out and to start meeting more families and staff as well. Other than that, that's really my update. Not a whole lot has happened outside of that. And so if it's okay with you, I could move on to the next agenda item.
Please do.
Because one of the things that I've been able to do in my first few days here is actually wrap up the search for a new director of student services. And so I'm very excited to be here tonight to recommend to all of you the appointment of Mr. Michael Stapleton for the position of the Director of Student Services of the Cohasset Public Schools. Though I wasn't in my position at the time, I was really fortunate to be able to be a part of the process for the hiring. And before I go any further, I just want to take a minute and really thank Dr. Leslie Scollins, who ran the process. She did this at a very busy time of the school year. We were wrapping things up, and she took this on sort of over and above the tasks that she normally does at this time of year, and she did a phenomenal job in making that process run smoothly. The process that she ran started with gathering a committee, and I'm going to name the folks on the committee in just a minute, but really trying to make sure that we had a representative committee of staff members, administrators, and families. And we also sent out a survey to the community, both staff and parent and caregiver community, to assess what they thought the strengths of the student services department were, what the growth areas were, and what qualities we were looking for in the new director of student services. We took that feedback as a committee, and from that survey, we determined what the top qualities were for the candidate that we would be looking to hire. And the things that rose to the top there were somebody who was a really good communicator, someone who could build strong relationships and trust, and someone who was able to be very transparent and consistent in how they worked and how they communicated with families and in the relationships they built, and who had a lot of experience in student services, knowing that there may be more things that this person needed to learn once they got into the position. After the initial round of interviews, the committee felt very strongly that there were two candidates to move forward, one of whom was Mr. Stapleton. And as a second round, both Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Scollins and I were able to meet with both finalists for a second interview. After those second interviews, we also felt that Mr. Stapleton was the right candidate for this position. In that second round, he was able to share more about what he currently sees as the strengths and areas of growth for the department, as well as share his vision for the Student Services Department, which is aligned to what the district has been doing, but has a lot more in the future that we're looking forward to seeing come to fruition. He really talked about his desire to build stronger relationships with families and within the Student Services Department itself. So I'd like to thank the following folks. They gave up a lot of time to be a part of this process. So Susan Owen, Elisa Keatons-Carl, our METCO director, Lisa Farrell, our former elementary Osgood principal, was on it before she left. John Mills, the middle school principal, Ann Bloomer, who's the OT at the elementary level, Megan Greeny, who is a secondary educator, Caitlin Stromberg, who is the school psych at the high school, Kathy Breen, the elementary team chair, Teresa Miller, the student service administrative assistant, Ms. Lesky, who's on the committee, Beth Frazier, who is a CPAC member and a parent representative, and Susie Roberts, who is also a parent in the community. And all of them really were incredibly thoughtful, incredibly insightful as we went through the process, and they gave up a lot of time to be a part of this work. And so at this point, I would like to recommend to you, the school committee, Mr. Michael Stapleton for appointment as the next Director of Student Services for the Cohasset Public Schools.
Thank you, Mrs. Shannon. Mr. Stapleton, would you like to take a seat at the table? And perhaps I just treat this like an invited guest. I don't know if you would like to. You don't have to feel obligated to, but I sense that you might want to address the committee with any sort of thoughts, if you want to talk about any sort of vision, strengths, opportunities as you see them, anything, just open forum. We'll give you, we'll give you 10 minutes to do that, up to 10 minutes. You don't have to use the whole 10 minutes. So.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be here today. I've worked for the Cohasset Public Schools for the past 8 school years. First as a special education teacher at the middle school level in the Intermediate Learning Center program, so partial inclusion program, and then transitioned. I joked during the interview process that after my first year of finally getting settled and grounded, it was March of 2020, and then kind of things shifted obviously with the pandemic, and then had been a team chair at the secondary level for the past 5 school years. And I really learned a lot about, special education administration in that time, building, special education programming, and really have felt very lucky to be a part of this community and to really have developed what I think is strong relationships with both staff members, with families, with parents, and most importantly with students. The students are obviously the most important thing, and the reason why that we're all here today, and for the work that we do. And so I'm excited, to have gone through this process, and I look forward to, having worked at the building level for an administration, to really move to the district level, is my goal professionally and personally. And I, hope that tonight, that will be the next step for me here, because I think the vision that I have for Cohasset is to just build further upon all of our strengths, and then also identify honest areas for growth and for improvement. My experience work really is special education, and this role I've taken a lot of time to reflect on what the Director of Student Services is beyond just special education. Well, that's a major aspect of the role. I'm excited to work with the different partners, whether it's for our English language learners, to build out that programming as that kind of becomes a larger population within Cohasset. As well as making sure that we're in compliance with all regulations related to special education, Section 504, and the umbrella of what student services is. And I also feel very lucky and have to thank learning from Barbara Cerwanka directly the past 4 years. I think has really allowed me to grow as a leader and to really understand where we are as a school. I am very familiar with the day-to-day of this building here, grades 6 through 12. But one of the first tasks that I would really be to develop those relationships at the elementary level too, as I learn families from pre-K up to grade 5. And fortunately in my role I've had a few chances to be down at the Deer Hill level, so I'm comfortable there, and really look forward to partnering with the new principal at the Osgood School, and feel that I have the strong relationships to start with the building leaders at the Alex Sullivan, principal of Deer Hill, John Mills, principal of the middle school, as well as Brian Scott at the high school level. And so I think, I'm excited for this potential opportunity, as I think my educational background in educational leadership, special education, and then my direct experience in Cohasset, in this community where I want to be and want to move things forward. And I look forward to also working directly with the school committee in this new potential role, and with the district leadership team under, the new leadership with Superintendent Shannon. So I'm excited to be here today, and have a lot of thoughts, and, would be ready to get started right away if given the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stapleton. I'm just going to give the committee a chance to, address Mr. Stapleton anyway. If you have comments, questions, however you want to do it, and we'll give you your 3 minutes each to do that. So, Mr. Carr.
So I've known Mr. Stapleton a long time, and I think this is a great recommendation. Thank you for raising your hand to say you'd be interested in doing it. I think, having a seamless transition with someone that comes from internally here in the school is great for us and great for the kids. So I think this is a terrific recommendation. Now I'll yield back the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Carr. Mr. Dial.
Mr. Stapleton, we've not officially met, so nice to meet you.
You as well.
I guess
Just, I'd like, as you're sitting here on the precipice of taking on the role, I'd like your thoughts on where we are now and what you think we should pay attention to going forward.
Yeah, so I think from the special education perspective, definitely keep in mind the social emotional needs of students. My capstone research project for my certificate of advanced graduate studies really focused on teaching social emotional learning, which was ironic at the time as the pandemic hit and we saw really a spike in the needs for students' mental health and social emotional needs. And I think that's been a focus at the secondary level as we try to build out therapeutic programming for students and really just wraparound services to support students both here and in their community as well. We've brought on a school social worker at the secondary level, which has been a huge benefit for the students here at the secondary level. But from conversations with elementary staff and principals and within the department, I do think there's a greater need for social emotional supports at the elementary level. And I also just think philosophically that if we aren't able to support those needs and really develop those skills while the students are at those grade levels, that will only snowball and become, more of an area of challenge for students. So one of the things that's definitely on my radar is building out social emotional supports, whether that be in the form of additional school adjustment counselors or school psychologists, to make sure that the students at the lower levels are receiving. And I'm not saying that they're not now currently, but it's an area that I just want to keep a close eye on as we consider the social emotional needs of students at the elementary level. I think additionally, compliance wise, we have a number of things coming up through to the Department of Elementary Education related to program reviews and making sure that we're in compliance special education wise through the IEP process, as well as for Section 504 accommodation plans. And I think just further developing staff understanding of different student needs is something that I've been dedicated to in my time here as a teacher and a team chair, developing understanding of different learning profiles, different needs of students, whether that be English language learner students or students that receive special education services. I think culturally moving that forward will be really important for staff members and for families to feel valued and heard, as we recognize that the Department of Student Services oversees many areas of need, but that we're continuing to build those forward to make sure that all students feel welcome here and members of our community.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dial. Ms. Lesky?
Well, I was lucky enough to be one, a part of the search process, and two, to have worked with Mr. Stapleton before in his role as the chair. And I think I want to mention that this was a very robust process. I think it's important for our public to know that this process involved multiple days of multiple hour meetings. And that's just what the larger committee was involved in, let alone what happened behind the scenes. And I say that only because that's a testament to the fact that you were not only the most experienced and knowledgeable person for this role, but your genuine interest and care in special education, supporting students, supporting families, and supporting staff all came together in this really beautiful package in you. And I think that that's, it's really hard to put all of those pieces together. And then you add to that sort of your understanding of the culture of Cohasset, the community, you're able to hit the ground running. I think you're going to be amazing. Congratulations. I'm allowed to say that. I just think that it's, we talked a lot about not settling during this process. What if we don't find a candidate? Well, we'll keep moving on. And so just so that everyone knows, this was a very rigorous process, and I'm very proud of that process that we went through it, and we found an excellent candidate who happened to be our right next door, which is even better. So.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lesky. And Mrs. Hannah is not present, so if someone has more to say and wanted to use her time, feel free. Anyone? Okay, so I'm timing myself as well. I just wanted to communicate to you, Mr. Stapleton, that the reason I am happy that you've been recommended is because of the culture that you've built at the secondary schools surrounding special education. I am, and comments the school committee makes can sometimes be viewed as criticizing those that are already in positions that are working in certain areas, and I'm not. And I'm certainly not besmirching Mrs. Sri Lanka's efforts if she ever watches this reporting, which I'm sure she won't now that she's moved on to a different district. But I'm stating what I think is an objective truth given information that's been communicated to me from families who I, along with the other 4 members of the committee, represent. And that is that I think there is a basic distrust surrounding our student services department. I think you are being handed the reins, something where a lot of people, especially in the special education realm, have some scar tissue around their child's learning difference and their struggle, and it can be really difficult to watch your students struggle. I think that they feel that their concerns have not been heard, that they have not been given, full access to every programming that they feel that they're entitled to, and that the process in determining what is included in any given IEP has been fairly opaque. So I want you to be very cognizant of that as you approach our families, especially those families at the elementary level, because they're just beginning their public school journey, and they are struggling with their new readers, watching their new readers have challenges, not maybe develop at the same speed or with the same celerity of their classmates. So please do everything you can to very firmly establish those relationships with the elementary families as much as possible. You have wonderful relationships with the secondary families. Don't lose that, but try and transfer that amazingness that you bring to the district to our elementary families. I think there's a real need there. And I really want you to keep a close eye on the elementary operations as much as possible from your new position. Beyond that, I would just say that personally, I think that you're an absolute credit to this district. I think we're lucky to have you, and I don't think the school system would be the same without you. And I think a lot of the secondary families feel that way. And that's why one reason that I personally am such a supporter of your recommendation as the Director of Student Services, because I know that you are the only candidate that could have been in that pool that will hit the ground running with a lot of love and support from at least half of the families in this district. So congratulations on getting to this point.
Thank you.
So at this point, if everyone said everything they want to say, we would, yes, Mr. Carr,
I'd like to make a motion
what is that motion?
that we accept the recommendation of Mr. Stapleton to lead this very, very important part of our school.
Okay, Mr. Carr has made a motion to accept the recommendation of the Student Services Director, Search Committee, and Superintendent of Schools' recommendation to appoint Mr. Michael Stapleton as the Director of Student Services for Cohasset Public Schools. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
That motion has been seconded by Mrs. Leskey. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? And no abstentions. So that motion does pass by a majority vote of 4 members, 1 member being absent. So it's a unanimous vote for those who are present. And Mr. Stapleton, we congratulate you.
Thank you.
You should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, I am very, excited to be here, and just to kind of follow up with your comments, Chair McClellan, as a type A personality, organized, I joke throughout, in my, just in conversations in the recent that I have a 10-point plan, and I'll be obviously I'm very excited to get started. And really a big piece of that, I want to give, I think our service, I'm fortunate in a sense to have, while only been focused at the secondary level, to really build relationships at the elementary too with those special education service providers. And so that is a big piece of where I want to move first, is to be down there, to learn those families, to learn those students, to really bring things forward. And I have a vision for the future, which I'm sure, now that this has been approved, that I'll be communicating to everyone in a organized fashion in the coming weeks. And so I welcome the opportunity, and I'm thankful for everyone and for being here tonight.
Congratulations to you. So be prepared to give perhaps an outline or a blueprint of your plans at your next student services update, as you'll be coming to the school committee meetings, as our new Director of Student Services every other week.
Yes, I'll be excited to be here, and I'll be ready to go.
All right, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you,
Wonderful to
everyone.
see you. Congratulations. The next order of business is Mr. Stapleton's contract. You have received it. We would need to discuss it in executive session if we want to discuss the terms, and that's absolutely welcomed if anyone wants to do that. We can also streamline the process. If no one has seen anything that they want to discuss in the contract, we can make a motion and approve it now, but we can also move into executive session towards the end of the meeting if anyone would like to do that, again, it's a fairly short meeting, so it's not going to be I don't think a burdensome thing to do. So don't be bashful if you do have some things you might want to talk about. You don't have to, and by the way, don't specify what you want to talk about, but if you do have any items. So does anyone want to discuss the contract terms privately, or is everyone prepared now to approve the contract terms so that the superintendent is able to present that contract to our newly named Director of Student Services for signature? You just raise your hand if you have any suggestions that you want to add. Everyone prepared? Okay, does anyone have a motion to approve the contract language?
So moved.
Okay, it's been a motion to approve the contract language as was disseminated to the committee prior to this meeting. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Motion seconded, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No abstentions. Motion passes by a majority vote of 4 members. So Superintendent Shannon, we would please instruct you to present that contract to Mr. Stapleton for signature.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Great. And that concludes the superintendent's report, I believe, correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll move right into teaching and learning, which is, although Dr. Scollins would ordinarily be giving this, that duty has fallen to you because Dr. Scollins is not present because she had a slight injury.
Yes.
So please proceed with the academic updates.
Okay. So continuing on with the idea of search committees, I wanted to give an update about the Osgood principal search. So we have followed a very similar process for this search as well. We put an email out requesting that folks who are interested let us know that they want to be a part of the search committee. We have a great search committee that is inclusive of central office, Osgood School representation, other leadership, and some parents as well. It's myself, Dr. Scollins, Anne Marie Papsadero, who is the head cook at the Osgood, Mr. Vinton, the adjustment counselor, Liz Deininger, the literacy specialist, Leslie Dimony, the librarian, Lisa Gowell, the admin assistant at the Osgood, Alex Sullivan, the Deer Hill principal, John Mills, the middle school principal, Miss Lesky, who's becoming a professional interviewer with us, and then 2 parents, Greg Palat and Liz Brannon. And Liz is also a school psychologist at the elementary level in another district, so she brings her experience as well. And it's been a great committee. We did do a similar survey of families and we got a great response. And so we use those survey results to help form a list of all of the qualities that we're looking for in a new Osgood principal. Again, similar themes about communication, but really also about being the face of the community and really building relationships with families as they come in, because the Osgood School is the first time our families are entering the public school district. It's this wonderful threshold moment in a family's life. And so having a principal who really recognizes that and can make that something special for our students and their parents is important. And the staff really were communicating that they're looking for someone who can come in and move the school forward, that, you know, what has been happening has been great and it set a foundation for taking the school to the next level. And so they're excited about that. So we had about 16 applicants and the committee has narrowed that down to 6, and we brought 6 candidates in actually between yesterday and today. And so while we are not in a place to announce who the finalists are, we are going to be moving 2 candidates forward as finalists. But because we like to give people the opportunity to let people in their lives know that they're going to be named publicly, we can't announce those names quite yet. Once we announce who they are, we'll be sending information as well, inviting staff at the Osgood and families to forums on Tuesday, the 23rd. Where would ask people to sort of hold those morning hours, 8 to 10:30. We'll be sharing specifics a little bit later, but we'll be holding a staff forum, a family forum. The candidates will meet with leadership and they'll have a one-on-one meeting with me as well before making a final decision. And folks who are at the forums will have the opportunity to provide some feedback as well after they have a chance to meet the candidates. So the hope is that after those forums, we'll have enough information to hopefully make a decision about who will be the next Osgood principal. And the hope is that we have somebody by the end of July. Because school starts, in a few weeks, really. And I would just remind folks that we're not looking to settle in any way. I think, and Ms. Leskey, if you have anything, I think we have two very good, strong candidates. But there's still other steps in the process that we need to go through. So we're excited about it and we're looking forward to meeting with these two folks again come July 23rd.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you tell us what time the family forum is, or is it TBD?
So it's TBD.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be between 8:30 and 10:30. But we're
Is
still
that for
working
the
out the
families?
schedule. Yes.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for that update, Superintendent Shannon. Move right into budget resources and governance first.
Actually, can I,
Sorry.
Derek, I have a couple, I just didn't know if anyone had any questions about
Oh,
that.
okay.
Sorry.
Apologies.
Two other things, just to let people know, we did want to let people know that AP scores are out. They came out on Monday, actually. And so families can log on to the College Board site and see what their children's AP scores are. Between now and the start of the school year, Leslie and Brian and Rock will be looking at the data and doing some analysis of that data, and we'll be able to share with you more information about that. But it is sort of fresh and hot off the press, but we want to let families know that if they haven't looked, now's a good time to look. And ESY, our extended school year program, began on Monday, and it's been going really well. It's happening both here at the high school and at the elementary level. And we've had a really good collaboration with the rec department. And so just wanted to say thank you to them, because our youngest kids, they sort of toggle between rec and ESY at times. And so rec is great about having counselors help bring their kids up to the Osgood when it's time for their ESY services, and then bringing them back down to Deer Hill or the library, wherever it is that they need to be. So just a shout out to them for their collaboration. So
All right, thank you very much. That was all the.
That is, sorry.
I'm sorry, we had discussed that. I neglected to remember that
That's okay.
you had two other items there. Any questions for Superintendent Shannon on any of the initiatives she just discussed? You just fire at will. Okay, seeing none. Now we'll move on to the budget resources and governance section. First agenda item within that section of the agenda is the approval of the feasibility study contractor slash designer. In this case, you might recall that we had taken steps to ask the town to approve up to $400,000 for the purposes of a sort of condensed feasibility study for our middle high school. And at its special town meeting in November of last year, that was approved. And so there was a lot going on, I think, for town hall between now and that time. So it took a little bit of time, but we did eventually get the send a request for a proposal out, and the only vendor, for lack of a better phrase, that responded to that was AI3, who is the designer that assisted us with the existing condition study. And my suspicion is that that's because other designers in that realm knew that they had conducted the existing condition study and thought that perhaps that they would be the ones that would be favored for this. I don't know, but that's my speculation on why we only received one bid or one proposal, but we did. So now it's up to us to consider whether or not we want to approve them, so that the town can negotiate the terms with them and we can get started and underway with the process, which is pretty exciting. So is there any discussion as to that issue? Mr. Carr.
Are we in compliance with procurement rules with only one bidder?
We are.
Okay.
Yep. Anything, Mr. Dial? Anything, Mrs. Leskey?
Just say, having been on the school facilities committee when AI3 was contracted with to do the existing condition study, it was a very positive experience and they were very thorough and wonderful to work with. So,
All right, thank you. And yes, I agree. I've worked with them a lot over the course of the last, I don't know, maybe 2 years for various purposes. They're incredible. And the representative that is that leads the Cohasset efforts from their firm is a gentleman by the name of Troy Randall. He's extremely attentive, responsive, intelligent. He's an impressive guy. This firm has successfully designed and built numerous schools in the area. They're beautiful schools. So I certainly have no reservations. So with that, unless there is any other discussion, I'd ask for a motion to approve AI3 as the feasibility study contractor.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Towers. Is there a second?
second.
Seconded by Ms. Leskey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No abstentions. So that motion passes by a majority vote of 4 members. So I will let the town know, the assistant town manager know that we just approved them. And I'll keep everyone updated as to what's going on with that. Superintendent Shannon wanted to place the next agenda item on the agenda, the discussion about whether or not we might consider engaging a public relations firm. So Superintendent Shannon, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to raise the idea with all of you of partnering with a public relations firm to support the district in a variety of ways. I've had the opportunity to work with a few different PR firms in the past and have found a lot of value in having a PR firm as a partner. The idea of having someone support us as we think about how we can more effectively and actively share good news and highlight our academic and extracurricular experiences for students is really important. I think especially as we move into a potential building project and even through the feasibility study process, I think having a PR firm who can help us think about how we bring people in without necessarily bringing them into the actual school is important as we look to engage in more town support for potential facilities shifts. I also think a PR firm can help us when hopefully we don't have any, but if a crisis was to occur and we needed to think about getting communication out quickly and with enough information that people understand what's going on, but also in a way that protects some of the confidentiality that as a school district, we may need to protect. And I think as we move into a year with 5 contracts that we need to negotiate, having a PR firm who can help us navigate some of those waters can be very helpful. In the past, I've worked in situations where we either had a PR firm on retainer or we had a set contract with them. They work in a variety of ways. And thinking about what might be right for Cohasset, especially in light of our budget situation, would be something we need to really seriously consider. But I just really wanted to see if people had an appetite for at least starting that conversation with all that is sort of on the horizon for the district.
Thank you, Superintendent Shannon. Any discussion on this topic, Mr. Carr?
So I used to work in a firm there. It's expensive. So we should give some thought to what our appetite is on money. They are very helpful. I get it. We have, we've looked at this kind of loosely before, and we have been lucky that we have not had any significant issues where we needed them. But we got to balance, I think, how much that could possibly be to our district over the return that we get from having a professional team. So, look, I'd love to, I'd be fine having further discussions on this. I think you know, we are always looking at ways we can, you know, make what we do here better. And so I'm open to it. I'm nervous about the cost of something like that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carmen. Dial?
So, Ms. Shannon, thank you for raising this. This is something that I've discussed previously with Dr. Sullivan, while he was superintendent. I see a lot of value in having a dedicated PR firm. I'll raise 2 points. One, there is a town PR function that maybe we could have better coordination amongst the schools in the town on that PR function. I don't know that that is necessarily fit for purpose of what the schools have. Over the course of the past couple of years, we have had some situations where PR advice would have been very helpful. And we did not have the advice that we needed. So I definitely see the need there and am fully supportive of pursuing it. That said, echoing Mr. Carr's comments, we are a district of extremely limited needs. In our last meeting, we were talking about raising, bus usage fees and field usage fees because we're covering budget shortfalls. We're coming into negotiating with teachers. We just got through a massive budget issue where we had a gap, and I don't think we've fully closed the gap for the upcoming year. So I fully support putting this on the list of things that we should consider, but we should make sure we consider it in light of the priorities that we have as a district and the benefit that we get from it. But I 100% agree that it can be worthwhile.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dial. Ms. Leskey?
I am also very much in favor of exploring that further, knowing that we have financial considerations. I think the way in which the district communicates is a really powerful tool, and it isn't always maximized because everyone's playing it. We don't have a communications director. And I think that's also perhaps a larger conversation would include engaging an outside firm or having an in-house position where there's someone who is directing communication so that there is consistency between buildings, in just the appearance, the tone, in all of those pieces, because I think it says a lot about people can draw inferences both positively and negatively about what's going on based on the frequency, quality, and content of communication. So I think communication in general is something that I'm interested in and can see how hiring a PR firm would be part of that. But again, I think I would vote in favor of books and teachers and things like that, if it came down to it. So I think it might be a tough reach for us now, but I think it's something to keep on the burner.
Okay, any further discussion from any other members? Okay, so why don't we think of an action plan here? It sounds like we're all open to considering it. I think that, just like we had the feasibility study for this reason, we need to deal in more than just hypotheticals. So would everyone feel comfortable if Superintendent Shannon looked into some options and people could come and present to us? We're under no obligation to engage, but to just get an idea, a sense of what the cost would be for a district, for a public school district. So we can maybe have a little bit more information at our arsenal as we do. Mr. Dow points out a very important point. Consider where this falls and all the other priorities, but at least we'll have the numbers to think about. Would anyone object to that?
I guess,
Yes.
I don't know if I'd go to the step of having people come present to us, but digesting the information, getting an indicative idea of what the cost would be and how we would be able to fund it and where that would come from, and if there would be, things that would fall off the priority stack. That I think that would be my first step. But
I think it's a great suggestion. I mean, if you're able to get the pricing information, maybe even like some collateral about what services they do provide, then that's great. I mean, I'm all in favor for not expanding the length of the meetings by having numerous parties present to us. Is that something you have? Is that adequate? All right.
And I think that makes sense also, even in that if we choose not to do this, at least we have maybe started a relationship with one or two firms where if we ever needed somebody in an emergent situation, we at least know who is the right person to call.
And frankly, I think that's the value is not necessarily the ongoing stuff, but when there are crises
I agree.
and that's, not that we've had massive crises in the past couple of years, stuff that
Things happen.
helps.
Okay, so
Great.
I think that's what you can walk away with is why don't you reach
Yeah.
out and try and get some information for us
Perfect.
to consider,
Thank
okay?
you.
Thank you very much for that. There is no budget and finance report tonight, so I cannot make the meeting, so we'll move right into the South Shore Ed Collaborative, which sends the meeting right back to our superintendent. Could you just please educate our families briefly what the South Shore Ed Collaborative is and why this is on the agenda?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
the South Shore Educational Collaborative is a really valuable resource for schools on the South Shore. They are a multi-purpose service that services students from multiple districts in the area who are challenged with disabilities that can't necessarily be met within the public schools. And they provide out-of-district services at a much more reasonable cost than many of our private school out-of-district placements. And so that's the benefit financially as a district of being a member. Additionally, they provide a wide range of professional development opportunities for staff in member districts, and they have other services. I know the collaborative I was a part of in my prior district, we had some job alike groups and things like that. So it's really a benefit to the district, and given the supports that they offer for our students and staff, when you're a member district, the district has a seat on their board. And I think that there's value in that because it allows us to know what's happening at the collaborative, when things are shifting, when things are applicable to our students who are attending. And as they continue to, make shifts and improvements to their services, we're aware of what's happening. So that's who the South Shore Educational Collaborative are and why it's beneficial for us as a district to be a member.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Before we proceed with the appointment of our superintendent as the board member, there was I think a comment from one of our family members, and that is Stephanie Saunders of Stratford Terrace. And Ms. Saunders, if you could just provide the street number at Stratford Terrace, so we have that for posterity's sake in the minutes, that would be much appreciated. She states that using a communication app like School Bundle would help with marketing and communication. Families in Scituate speak positively of this, as all school alerts, communications, and calendars are in one place. So that just came in. And again, Ms. Saunders, if you could just provide the number of Stratford Terrace at some point. There it is, 10 Stratford Terrace. Thank you very much, Ms. Saunders. And thank you very much for your participation and all your work on the various school-related committees. So is there a motion to appoint a superintendent, Sarah Shannon, as the board member for the South Shore Ed Collaborative? It's traditionally the superintendent of schools who we appoint, so.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Dial. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Carr. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No abstentions. Motion passes by a majority vote of 4 members. Congratulations on your appointment, Superintendent Shannon.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting to know a new collaborative.
There you are. That's great. Okay, moving on. I don't suspect that there are any reports, but there may be some reports. If anyone has a report from a subcommittee position or a liaison position, fire at will, please.
No.
Okay, my suspicions have been confirmed. Move right into school committee governance. And before we start, I do want to, I went over the sort of new procedural guidelines we're going to try to adhere to. I want to make it clear that, I had chaired this board before and the meetings were extremely long. I mean, we had a 6-hour meeting when I was, at the helm. So this isn't certainly a commentary on Mr. Dial, who is also a friend and did a great job running this board for 2 years, which is a really serviceable job running this board for 2 years. And it's a lot of work. And I'm really appreciative of him doing that. I certainly needed a break after doing it in the pandemic, and Mr. Dial, I think, did a wonderful job of effectively running this board. So it's not just like I said when I was talking to Mr. Stapleton about how comments can be perceived as criticism. This isn't a criticism at all. I'm just trying to search for ways that we might become more efficient in what we do, so that our educators aren't here so late, especially ones that might have a commute. I'm just trying to be sensitive to that. And also that we're volunteers, that like we've all worked a full day, or a lot of us have worked a full day by the time we get here. So that's all. So I just want to make that clear. As my friend and colleague here, Mr. Dallas, sitting right next to me, it is not a commentary at all on how this board was run. I thought it was a fantastic board under his leadership, and I was honored to be a part of it.
So was I.
Moving on, there are no topics that I didn't anticipate tonight that I know of. If there is something on someone's mind, let me know. We don't have any approval. I don't think we have any minutes to approve. I didn't receive any.
No.
Okay.
I'm
And
still the problem. I will clean that up.
no problem, no problem. I think we're still in pretty good shape there,
Yep,
so,
we are.
and we thank you for that, Mr. Carr. Future agenda items, please fire at will.
We far exceed what general minutes look like. So maybe we might talk about how are people satisfied with the format of our minutes, and if they are great, and if they're not, we could have a discussion briefly about what the future minutes might look like.
Okay. Anything else? Ms. Leskey?
I have a couple.
Sure, great.
I would like to make sure, as we're sort of thinking about the upcoming school year, picking back up that curriculum project that the entire district has been working on, and getting an update on sort of the outward facing piece for parents of sort of understanding curriculum, as well as the piece for faculty and staff to sort of make those sort of the documentation of the curriculum. I'm not sure if it had a name, but does everyone know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Are you talking about the curriculum mapping?
Curriculum mapping.
Okay.
Just to make sure that that maintains it, because I think it's a really important piece for educators and for parents. I would love to see Mr. Roberts come back in and do some sort of data presentation, particularly around sort of like almost a state of the union. What did he learn in his first year? His takeaways for areas of growth, his takeaways for what we're doing really well, and where the district envisions him digging in next. And then finally, we'd love to have Mr. Stapleton back specifically to talk about a vision for special education. And maybe he needs some time to get his feet on the ground first, but to keep that on a running list.
Okay, that will assuredly be on the list. So I'll write those down and we'll incorporate them in future meetings.
I don't think any of them are time sensitive. They're just.
Well, I think Mr. Roberts' presentation we can do in the front end of the academic year, right? Looking back and looking forward sort of thing, but we'll work on how we work that into the other mandatory items that we have to have that are sort of time sensitive.
Can I add the,
Mr. Dial, anything?
baseball field?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Just to see when I know that there's been some sub meetings and so on. So just to keep us apprised on that.
Yes,
don't wanna
I am-
lose sight of that.
I am, without deliberating on it too much, I am sending out an email to the stakeholders that we've targeted on that, and I'm planning on doing that this week, so we can get that meeting. We need to get that first meeting together on that. Anything else? Mr. Carr?
No super rush on this one. It'd be great if we could get an update on this library book process and what's going with that.
All right, maybe would you be okay if we just had that incorporated into the superintendent's report? Like, so,
Sure. Just
so
how's it going?
Ms.
and,
Rudy could probably tell Miss Superintendent
Yep.
Shannon, what, okay.
I think I'd be maybe interested in some periodic discussion around maintenance and priorities about maintenance at a time that's convenient to fit with the agenda.
Okay, so that's the second one.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we want to call it?
I don't know.
We had previously talked about like a maintenance budget and working with the town. There's apparently an overall facilities budget at the town. And so I think is that
Yes.
what you're referring to? So,
Yeah.
the stuff that our good friend Mr. Kiernan would often raise about power washing, painting, that there is an overall facilities maintenance budget. And then, coordinating with the town, how that's going, I think would be a good agenda item just to keep us on the oversight of
How
that.
do we want to do that? Do we want to have someone in from town hall to do that? How do we want that to look?
I think it struck me that, it's something we could discuss maybe quarterly, but I think we also need to sort of broadly stick up for ourselves better than we have. Because I think we may be leaving something on the table in the towns.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I've got no views on format. I would leave it to the two of you to
Yeah.
figure out, well, it's just a update on where we are with funding our maintenance needs. And our call from our budget meeting, at the end, we didn't have a line item in our internal budget for building maintenance. I would like to discuss having that or having a placeholder for that if it's gonna come from the town, so that we just have better oversight to ensure that some of the stuff that we need to be doing is getting done. We're not, as Mr. Carson, leaving stuff on the table.
Okay, the reason I appear to be at a loss is because I'm trying to figure out which person would be most appropriate and most qualified to give that update, so that, because I know that there'll be questions, right? So who's going to have the information on hand to answer those questions? Who should I?
So I think Ms. Shannon, the superintendent, Ms. Owen as director of operations would be a place to start. I think they would have to have conversations with people in the town. And then those conversations themselves would yield who the experts would be, and we have the information.
All right, so I'm gonna ask Ms. Owens to look into that.
Would it also make sense to add regular meetings with the school facilities committee, or regular sort of tying that in somehow, if it's a quarterly check-in on maintenance issues, to have them also weigh in on prioritization,
Yeah, that
any
might,
other
yeah,
initiatives that they're
that's a
working on?
Mandate.
that's a great suggestion, because I wanted to have them in on a regular basis. So maybe what we should do is just incorporate this discussion into that update when they come here. And perhaps they're best suited to go and get that information and present it to us and field the question. So maybe that's what we do. I think that's great. That's a great idea. That's great, Ms. Liskey. I'll talk to Jason Earls on that. That's great, because then the impetus isn't, excuse me, the onus isn't put on our staff necessarily. It's a committee that has already been established for that exact purpose. I think that's appropriate. All right. Anything else? All right. We do not have a reason to move into executive session because everyone was content with the contract terms as presented prior to the meeting. So we approved Mr. Stapleton's contract already. That was the only item I had in mind for that. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at this time?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Dial. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Leskey. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes by a majority vote of 4 members. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.